welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamika and this is Check the Rhymes. I am super excited about today's show because I have Perdita Felicien. She is an Olympian and world champion hurdler, and you've seen her here before. She is back with a new book called My Mother's Daughter, and we're also going to talk about the third season of the show that she hosts called All Round Champion. So stay tuned because you definitely don't want to miss today's show. Welcome to Check the Rhymes. How are you?
I'm good, Shamika. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm so excited that you are back visiting me today on the show. So obviously let me back up. How have you been doing during this pandemic?
Listen, I'm having a time, right? Like everybody else. And I feel like anytime I ask anybody else how they're doing, I feel like it's a loaded question because like I could go anywhere with that, but right. I'm hanging in there, a little stir crazy, a little bit like, what is life? But I'm healthy and that's kind of my thing. I'm good, no complaints, you know?
That's good. That's good. Well, I was super excited because, you've been here before. We talked about we'll get to that all round champion, but your book is out and you've got it right there. My Mother's Daughter. So let's dive into that. Tell me, did you always plan to write a book or did you just kind of how did it come about?
Yeah. So, I was, an Olympic athlete, that we've discussed that on your show and competed for, almost 13 years, 2000 to 2013. Mm-hmm. And around 2011 is when I thought, I'm going to tell the story of my mother's life because it really informed my life and how I was able to become a world-class athlete. Mm-hmm. And so, but I didn't start writing until 2014. And the book, to get it just, whole on the page, took about 4 years.
Wow. It
was supposed to come out last year, as you know, but because of the pandemic, we delayed it a whole year. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like, I've had this story in me for a really long time, but the fact that it's here now feels a little bit surreal, but it's like, no, it's here. It's here.
And I love the cover. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, there is. So my mother, I'm a first generation Canadian and, I grew up doing sports. I went to the University of Illinois, lived outside of Chicago for nearly 10 years in Champaign, Illinois. But really the origins of this book and this story is that my mother immigrated to Canada but she just met a affluent white couple on the beaches. They were vacationing. She was a teen mom. It wasn't me, it was my two older siblings. But she asked them, she trespassed onto hotel property, said, do you need a babysitter? And they had a 3-month-old. And it was very strange because now you'd never do that, right? You'd never be on vacation somewhere and meet, a young girl, even though she's friendly, and give your baby to them.
Yeah.
But that happened. And that started my mom's, immigration story to Canada. But when she comes to Canada, she left my two siblings behind, which was very hard. But she's a domestic worker. So this picture at the time is her and I after 6 years of her being in Canada. My other siblings are still in St. Lucia, but she's just trying to make it. But because she has no papers, no traction, really not making a lot of money and people are taking advantage of her, we experience a lot of things, the homelessness, the poverty. Right. And really it's telling the story of that. So that covers her working in one of her domestic homes. The family isn't particularly great to her, but they're not mean either. Mm-hmm. But we took that picture because the woman she was taking care of didn't want to take the picture that day. She was in her 80s. She had Parkinson's. She wore a helmet. And so who knew in 1986, wow. Shamika, that this would become the cover of a book. I'm 40 years old now, and who knew? It's so amazing.
I was about to say, you're a 40-year-old lie. You are not 40. No, you're not.
You know what they say, though. I would repeat it, but you know.
I know.
You know.
Oh my goodness. I love that story. I love that. So one of the things that I have been watching a couple of interviews that you've done. I was just blown away by some of the themes that you touch on, and even in the book. And I haven't been able to get through the whole book yet, but I'm going to read the entire book. But when I listened to this one interview, and there was something that you said about the relationship between your mother and your father.
Yeah.
That struck a chord. So I wanted to know how that was for you writing about domestic violence.
Yeah. So I'm a child witness to domestic violence. And it's interesting. I raced, like we discussed, over a decade, interviewed by the world's press as a world-class athlete. And I've never disclosed this part of my life, this part of my experience. So I feel like people who are maybe a fan of my sport career are going to get to know me anew. And yes, in the book, I talk about the fact that I saw my father put my mother out in the middle of the night, literally take all her clothes, all her garments, her shoes, her belts, her jewelry, her perfumes, and throw them out in the middle of the night and kick her out. I'm about 5 or 6 years old when this is happening. And here's the difficult thing about going into the past and telling a story, right? There's people who are part of this story who might not want their story told.
Right.
And yes, in that interview, I discussed the fact that my father is a big part of this story, right? And I'm telling some of my earliest memories, and some of my earliest memories are of him being abusive to my mother. But my dad is not that man today. This is, more than 3 decades ago. But as a woman and as a mom now, I have to tell my truth. And my truth includes that. And Shamika, I could have wrote this book and made it nice and made us look better and less messy as a family.
Right.
But who could stand behind a story like that? It's not the truth. You know what I mean?
Right. And most people's families aren't, just perfect. There's some kind of skeleton somewhere. So I appreciate that you shared that, because, there are a lot of people that have that same experience. And so that may be even helping them to heal from that.
I love that you said that, because here's the thing, like I am West Indian, and especially in West Indian culture and Black culture as a whole, we don't air dirty laundry. Right. Okay. And the tea is hot in this book. Okay. Because I'm just telling you, because, but a part of it is therapy for me as well. Like we don't have a home. We're homeless. We show up in 1987, November, after fleeing my dad's house at the doorsteps of a women's shelter. And it's exactly what you say. Being revealing this book will allow other families and other women to know, you know what? I'm actually not alone in this. And let's take away the stigma from women needing to ask for help, for women finding themselves in abusive relationships. It's not your fault, girl. It is not about you. It's their own stuff. But you can get out of it and you can be better for it. And so I really did in 2014 when I first started to write. I brought my entire family together, my mother, my siblings, their family. And I said, I want to tell our family story. I want to tell mom's story. But we all knew it was messy. Right. And honestly, Shamika, everybody gave me their blessing. Had my mom said no, it's embarrassing, it's shameful, I don't feel good about it, I would have never started to write. But she knows who she is as a woman. Right. And she said, if I can just tell this story to inform and empower one woman, tell it all, girl.
I love that. I was curious, though, as to, did your mom talk about at all, like as you're writing the book, did she kind of talk about how she healed from going through something like that?
Yeah, that is such a good question. So as I'm doing interviews in the last few days, because the book was only released a few days ago, my mother's very emotional during interviews. Yeah. And cries, right? When she's recounting some of the things that's on the page. I also learned during the interview that she'll skip through the hard parts. The hard parts about, being in an abusive relationship, having to leave my dad, the names that she was called. Yeah. And I honestly will to say to you that I did not know it was that close to the surface for her, because it's been decades. So to answer your question of how she's healed, I honestly think my mother is still healing. I also believe that it now being revealed and it being the truth of her life is actually therapeutic for her. Because now she doesn't have to hide, or we don't have to pretend we're this, certain family. We can say, actually, this is the root of us. And this is what scarred us or informed her, if that makes sense. Right. We're still kind of healing. But my mom has a very strong sense of self, because most mothers would have said, don't talk about this. Right. I actually don't want anyone to know. I experienced, my husband turning off the water in our entire house to punish me, right? For not cooking. Right. For not cleaning or the food running out, but there's no money. Right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But because she knows who she is, she allowed us to tell a story. And I think she's still healing. I think we're all still healing.
Well, I'm interested in that part about your own healing. I know you said writing the book was therapy, but witnessing something like that kind of stays on your mind, maybe even in the back of your mind, just as you're growing up. Yeah. How did that affect like relationships with men? Just until you kind of decided to like deal with it and heal from it?
Yep. That is, no one's asked me that. And I'm so glad that you're going there, because the truth of the matter is it really informed me as I was growing as a young woman, because I saw my mother cry.
Yeah.
I saw my mom, experienced, name calling. My dad would call her certain names and say, her older kids, your kids are bastards. And I never knew what the word bastard meant.
Right.
And he used that against her. And so one thing I knew as an impressionable young girl, and you don't know you're soaking these things up as a young girl, right? You don't know.
Right.
It's only the perspective later. But I remember thinking, I don't ever want a husband like this. 11, 12, 13 years old, I don't ever want a partner like this.
Right.
And so as I was dating, I would make sure that the guys that I was dating were solid. No F-boys here, pardon my French, if you know what I mean.
I love it. Love it.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the opposite could have been the same, meaning I actually could have gravitated to men that would mistreat me and treat me poor, because I could have thought that's what I deserve, or that's how all men are, right? And thank God my mom really tried to pick herself up, because she has 4 daughters, 1 son.
Oh, yeah.
So if you imagine the children that she's rearing, at some point my mom realized, I have to make more of my life and do more of my life, or else my girls will repeat this pattern. And she never wanted us to. So even till this day, I said, my dad was in and out of our lives. I said, if I ever I have a daughter now, she's 2, her name's Nola. I said, if I ever have a child one day, her father will be everything that I never had in my father. And thank God I have that now in my husband. Yeah. Right. But girl, like it imprints on us, right? Those young experiences.
Yes, absolutely. How did you, writing process, I'm sure, like you said, it took a while to write the book, but how did you kind of detox from that so that you could deal with other stuff like filming, All Around Champion and doing other things?
Yeah. Honestly, this was my labor of love. Like I went to the University of Chicago, their writer studio, and I have a certificate in creative writing. So I went there for 2 years. And so I was completely immersed in the writing process from then. So that was about 2014 to 2016. And then the book is out now. Right. So what I would do is I would have little chunks in time where I'm really writing and I'm really entrenched in like the material, and times where I would have to pull away. And like All Around Champion is a great outlet, right? Because it's fun, it's energetic. It's my, sport is my thing. Right. I love working with the young athletes. So I would find I would have to dive in and then come back out, dive in and come back out. But I couldn't be fully in it at all times, because it's heavy. Like we talk about poverty, we talk about immigration, we talk about abortion, we talk about a lot of things in my book. And it's heavy, right? So I needed times where I could just decompress from that. And things like All Around Champion gave me the energy to just kind of like, focus somewhere else.
That's awesome. Going back to, I just thought about this because I know, I cheered for a long time, and I threw myself into cheerleading just as an outlet to not deal with some of the things going on. So I wondered if that's why you got into sports, is if it was kind of a way just to deal with things. Is that what it was? Or was it just, you just loved sports?
No, it wasn't. I just loved sport. Like I ran from sport for a while, and my mom is the one who encouraged me to go back in high school, because I quit for 2 years. But I think once I really dedicated myself to sport in high school, it was actually a mechanism for me to make my mother happy. Oh, wow. Right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. A way to make her proud. Because, it was just her and I in Canada as she was struggling, right, with no place to live, etc. And my other siblings were in St. Lucia with my grandparents, right? So I witnessed my mother's difficulties, right? I witnessed her employers not paying her, mistreating her, giving her, dollars when they owe her hundreds. Right. And I would see her cry. And so my mom, even till this day, she's revealed to me, as this book has come out, I actually felt guilty, because as a 5 and a 6-year-old, I relied on you. And I would wipe my mother's tears. I would tell her she would be okay. And so sport for me was really a vehicle to make her happy. Because I never, Shamika, wanted to be on the list of things that made her sad and made her cry. Because I was her witness, right, to her life. I saw the things that made her cry. So if I could have good manners, if I could have good grades, good races, I knew those were days Mom could smile. So that really was what sport was for me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, and I'm sure she is beyond proud, especially, and now seeing that you're telling her story, because it's intertwined with your own, what is she just kind of like overwhelmed by everybody's response, or how is she handling it?
She is in her element. Okay, girl. She is loving this. She feels like queen for a day or a month or a year, whatever. She's loving it. But what I will say is, we were really nervous about this week, right? Because you write a book, you want the world to embrace it. You don't know how it's going to be received. And I think once you write it, you have to let it go.
Yeah.
But it's getting really good buzz, really good energy, really good positivity. It's doing really, really well. And I think it's a credit to her. And it's a credit to the power of this story. Because here's the thing. My mother had to drop out of school with with an age 11 and 12 education. So she's around, 6th grade when she had to drop out. Right. The reason my mother dropped out is because she had to sell on the beach to vendors on their local beach to make money. So my mother, when she came to Canada, just by chance, always thought, if I could just make it through these hardships, then my children will never have to sell on a beach in the hot sun, and that will be their future. Right. She wanted a little bit more for us. And the fact that I could go on and compete at the Olympics, become a world champion, host a TV show, an all-around champion, for her, we are living the dream that she wanted us to live. Yeah. So I think the fact that it's out now, she is basking in this, she's beaming in it. She's a proud Black mother, proud Black woman, as she should be, right? Because she has 15 grandchildren, Shamika. None of them are selling on a beach, which nothing is wrong with that. She just simply wanted more for us. Yeah. And we all are living the more. All 15 of her grandchildren and all 5 of her children. Oh, I love that. I love that. She's going to have to start giving out her autographs. Tell her that. Right? So what do you hope that readers take away from this book? Yeah, great question. And my answer might change as I'm absorbing it, right? But I think right now I hope every woman, I hope every daughter, I hope every family sees some aspect of themselves in this book, whether it's the struggles that they go through, whether it's the triumph, whether it's the bonds, whether it's standing on your grandmother's shoulders or your mother's shoulders, or your great-grandparents' shoulders, your ancestors' shoulders, and seeing far. That's what I want. It is also, for me, it doesn't matter where you begin, what your origin is. Yeah. If you have a North Star in a place that you want to go, go there. And I hope everybody sees the start doesn't matter. It's who you become. It's who you want to be that truly matters. My mom wanted to be more. She wanted to have more. And even if it wasn't for her life, it was for the life of the generations to come. And so the truth is, we can all be that. We can all become that. And so I hope everyone can take those nuggets from this book, because I think whether you're Black, you're white, you're Asian, whatever you are, you can get something from this story. Absolutely. And I've gotten a lot just from the pages that I've read, and even just talking to you now, I'm just like empowered. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Empowered. Yeah, I love that. So let's chat about All Round Champion. New season is here. What sports are like on this season? Because I know last season we chatted. So what can we expect this season? Yeah. Listen, season 3 is like, I'm like, where have we gone with season 3? It is so intense. Like, if I thought season 1 and 2 were intense, we bring it. So there's boxing. Ooh. There's some blood. Just and there's some bloody noses. Get ready. We have track cycling in the velodrome. We have pole vaulting. Oh my goodness, there's so many sports this season. Yeah. I really was not prepared for how much this group would click, but even when they click, they also clash. and I'm just like, okay, like let's bring it down a notch, which they don't. They're so competitive in season 3, but that's what you want, right? They've also had the virtue, this cast, this crop of athletes. They've seen the other seasons, right? Oh, right. 1 and 2 were kind of a little bit blind. Now 3 has seen it, so they know what to bring. They know the energy. They know all the twists and turns, and they do not play. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm excited. Yeah. Because, and I'm always like in awe of how these athletes just go in there and go for it. Because I'm like, ooh, I would have been like, I need to go home. Exactly. Like sometimes I'm like, are you not homesick? Right. They are not homesick. They don't want to go home. They want to compete. And so we introduced a few more elements, and I'm not going to say what they are because, those would be spoilers, but we introduced a few more twists and turns just to keep this thing more entertaining and honestly keep them honest, because sometimes they think they know where they're going because they've seen the past season, and we're like, oh no, here's this twist, and it's almost like throwing a little bomb into the week's episode and just watching what happens. Right? It is intense. Well, I was going to ask you, like, what makes you come back each season, but that sounds like it sums it up, just to see the athletes and the competition
and what bombs y'all can throw in there to throw them off.
Well, it is. And this season, honestly, like during boxing week, which is about, I want to say it's week 5 or 6. Don't quote me because I'm going off of memory.
Okay.
It's boxing. And you know, boxing is like, you're in the, listen, I came back for the tea and the juice and the popcorn because I'm like, this, I will be, because it is, you see the arc of the episode. One of our athletes is the underdog, the extreme underdog, and they really just try and rise and make it happen that week. And whether or not they win, it's not the point. You just see the struggle, and then you see the breakthrough. That is one of the seasons that I'm the episodes I'm most proud of any of the seasons we've done so far.
I need y'all to introduce cheerleading into this.
Shamika, done. Say no more. I'm on it. That would be amazing, hey?
Right.
I'm on it. I'm on it. You need to come as the sports star too. Come
yes.
Coach. Come in.
Let me know. I am here for it.
I'm working on it.
So tell everybody where they can get the book and where they can watch All Round Champions.
Yes. So my book, My Mother's Daughter, is available anywhere in Canada, the United States, on Amazon, indigo.ca, as well as your local bookstore, anywhere. And All Around Champion premiered March 30th, and you can catch it every single Tuesday on BYU TV at 8 p.m. I mean, it's hot this season. I'm just saying, buckle up because it's the ride. And if you can't watch the episodes live, that's okay. You can watch them on the free BYU TV app and, of course, on the BYUtv.org website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by Check the Rhymes to talk about My Mother's Daughter and All Round Champion. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you again.
Oh, it's always a treat talking to you, Shamika. I'll see you next time.
Yes, you'll have to come back.
I'll be back.
All right.